What do these movies have in common?
Stay tuned and we'll let you know.
Today on the show. Good morning, Scallywags.
Happy Thursday, guys.
Welcome back. And today, in case you couldn't tell from the stinger there, we're talking comic book movies. And I'm going to make a bold statement here, D. Comic book movies, they kind of suck.
They what?
Don't get me wrong. I enjoy comic book movies as much as the next nerd. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't, have copies of them here if we didn't like them. But there's a lot of things that these movies all do, they all have in common, that they need to stop doing. And today we're going to talk about how to fix these things to not necessarily, well, fix is the wrong word. How to improve the comic book
I
movie.
like that term, improve.
Yeah.
I like that a lot better than fix.
So we got a list of 5 things here, and then each one will have its own little kind of subcategories. But these are going to be 5 ways to fix the comic book movie trend.
Yep. So sit back, tighten up that cape, pull up the boxer briefs, and hang on.
Put your underwear on the outside of your pants, and here we go.
Yeah.
Kicking it off with number 5. We're going to start with the simple stuff, the origin story.
We don't need Hollywood. We as fans, we're in the genre. We love these characters. We love the comics. I don't need I don't need half of the movie explaining to me that Batman's parents died.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
So I've got 3 points to make on this one. Number 1, first of all, there's one movie that actually got this right. Maybe 2. I'm going to go ahead and say 2 here. 2 movies because they kind of did it the same way. The Incredible Hulk, that is the Edward Norton version, and Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice.
So explain how they got it right.
If you're going to do an origin story, I mean, I get it. You want to throw the origin in there for the non-comic book fans that may come to see the movie. But both of these movies told the entire backstory during the opening credits.
Quick, painless,
2 minutes at most, and then hey, remember his parents were shot in an alley. Hey, remember there was this gamma radiation experiment that went horribly awry. Okay, cool. We're brought up to speed now. Let's go.
Like
Here we go.
sometimes the page 1 of comic books will catch the reader up to speed.
Yeah.
What happened last issue? So that's what we needed.
So that's point number 1. We don't need an origin story, and kind of floats into point number 2. If you're going to do one, make it quick and make it simple. Don't build the entire movie around your origin story. Like, I don't know, I could rattle off a
lot.
Rather long list here of movies that have done that. But my biggest point when it comes to the origin story is if you feel you need to do one, whether it be short, whether it be the whole movie, doesn't matter. Stop changing it.
That is the worst thing Hollywood does. They will get a property, and then they will decide that let's just tweak this a little bit to make it a little more realistic.
And we're going to come back to that point.
Yeah,
here
we're
in a
going to
few
come back
minutes.
to that.
That's a point that's going to kind of keep coming up during this, is the little changes and things that they make throughout. So moving into number 4, your Rogues Gallery. Now, when it comes to the Rogues Gallery, I understand Batman, for example. Everybody, even if you've never picked up a comic book in your life, you know who the Joker is. Okay?
Yeah.
We get that. I understand that. But all of these people have these enormous and eclectic rogues galleries of just tons and tons of characters for you to pick and choose from. Use them. Quit going with the arch nemesis first time out.
The big bads, the A-listers.
Yeah, look at your Superman in the new DCEU. Okay, you've got first movie, General Zod. Second movie, Doomsday.
Yeah.
So you take 2 out of the 3 of the biggest Superman villains ever, and you give those to us right out of the gate. Where do you go to from here?
I mean, what else you got?
I mean, you've got Brainiac. Okay, great.
Okay,
that's number 3 of the 3 big bads. You got Metallo. You've got all sorts of these guys. But no matter where you go, with the exception of Brainiac, no matter where you go from here, you're stepping backwards.
It's like, to correlate with what he said, the Spider-Man universe. We got...
How many times have we had Green
Goblin right off the bat. You've got the Sinister Six, which, yes, it includes Green Goblin, but there's Otto Octavius, there's the Scorpion, there's the Shocker.
Best Spider-Man movie to date. Best Spider-Man movie to date. Spider-Man 2. Doc Ock.
With Doc Ock, I have to agree. I like the way they portrayed Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2.
That was the best.
But, I mean, you've got so many other a plethora of villains, a plethora of just other characters.
That's where Nolan's Batman got it right. First time out, we get Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul. Okay?
Little tidbit to the Joker.
Sure.
To set him up.
Build
but that's
towards it. We know, I mean, okay, if they had, we get the card there at the end that says, hey, the Joker's out there. Now, granted, we get him in part 2, and the original plan was for Joker to be the main antagonist for both part 2 and 3, and then, of course, Heath Ledger passed away. But personally, I would have liked to have see the card at the end of the first movie. Oh, we're getting the Joker, we're getting the Joker. Don't give him to us yet. Hang on to him until part 3. So then the whole time you're like, well, we know he's out there. When's he coming? You need to build that excitement. Let it build, like they're doing with Thanos in the Marvel.
Yeah, they've let it build for years. You've known he was there since
the first Avengers
movie. You knew he was coming, and then they just kept. Oh, well, here's a little bit more. Oh, well, here's another Infinity Gem. Oh, he's getting the gauntlet. Oh,
yeah.
Instead of like Batman versus Superman, what the big bad is. There was no build up to one of the greatest Superman villains ever.
The Doomsday series took up 8, 9 issues,
almost
I think.
A full year.
I mean, and he went through it wasn't quite that long, but it lasted for a while, over several issues, where he went up against literally every hero in the entire DC universe and just kicked everyone's butt before finally getting to Superman and that big battle ensued. But instead, no, we get Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman fighting him for 15 minutes, and then it's over.
That's it. And Lex Luthor was behind it all, which that's not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, that can go back into several other categories.
We could pick any of these points and
spend a day on it.
So let's move on. Number 3, and this one's a big one for me, and that is the real world feel. And this is something that all of these movies have adapted to for whatever reason, and Nolan started it.
I have to.
You're talking about aliens that are basically gods. You're talking about literal gods of thunder. You're talking about super soldiers. You're talking about
billionaire playboys who can have any gadget you can possibly think of because they have a techno genius working for them, or they are the techno genius.
You're talking about an Amazonian princess who was molded out of clay and then had life breathed into her by Zeus himself.
What about this?
What is real world about that? Seriously.
Stop.
Just let it be a comic book movie. It's a comic book movie. Let it be one.
Let it be one.
Okay. Now, this real world feel, it goes into a number of things that they make changes to that adds to this and makes these movies. This is the category where most of the things that I say are wrong with these movies come into play. So you've got point number 1, costumes.
Nobody needs to be in all leather.
Nobody needs to be in all leather. Now, I'm not saying throw on some spandex, okay?
Oh, no.
They make the joke in the original X-Men movie. What would you prefer, yellow spandex?
Actually, yeah, I would have liked yellow spandex.
Spandex,
or
no.
maybe the orange and black.
But, well, I mean, the spandex itself, no. But you've seen pictures. I mean, look at this, okay? Just a quick mock-up of what someone has made, the classic, iconic Wolverine costume, what it would look like in these movies today. Awesome. I think it's awesome. I think it looks amazing. I hope Marvel, please give us that whenever you finally bring the X-Men into the MCU. Okay? Please give us that. Look at Superman. Okay? Man of Steel, Henry Cavill, Superman. He's got a spandex-esque bodysuit on. You make a couple little tweaks to it here and there, or Affleck's Batman.
I actually liked Affleck's Batman.
It's
suit.
a bodysuit.
It was a bodysuit.
It's a bodysuit, but it looks like the spandex from the comic book. That is Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool.
Yeah, we're going to get back to that. So there's a way to do it to where it's not spandex, but it's not just, oh, I'm wearing this leather suit, whatever. So, okay, granted, after mentioning those, obviously, there are some that have gotten that one right. But there's a lot. I'm looking at you, X-Men. I'm sorry. I absolutely despise the X-Men movies. We're going to get back to that in a moment. But yeah, so just stay truer to that, and we're gonna get back to that. So dumbing down of powers.
We're not getting the powers right in the first place.
Right. X-Men.
X-Men.
See Rogue, for example. I hate the X-Men movies.
Or Jean Grey. My biggest speaking point is Jean Grey in the X-Men movie.
I get it. I get it.
The Phoenix is not something within her. It's an extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial entity that inhabits her.
True. That while that may be true, I can also see why they didn't go into that whole story, because that would be a completely weird thing to come out of nowhere. So I get it.
Oh, but it
I
opens
get
up
it.
the whole
It
realm
does.
of X-Men, Rogues Gallery, the Shi'ar Empire.
And that is okay. As far as the Rogues Gallery is concerned, you give me one more freaking X-Men movie with Magneto as the bad guy, and I'm gonna hurt somebody. Okay, let's see. We've had what?
He's been in every single X-Men movie. He's been in all of them.
We've had 6 X-Men movies now, and he's been the bad guy, or at least a bad guy, in every single one of them. Yep. Okay, we finally got Apocalypse.
We didn't need Magneto.
Very badly, but we finally got Apocalypse. Give me Sinister, please.
And that's the only character you need.
Marvel, you've got them back. You can do this right. Please.
He's a little passionate.
Give me Mr. Sinister.
Give me good character development. I mean, these are comic books years old, tens of years old.
And we're getting
to that.
But dumbing down of powers. Okay, we're getting
ahead of ourselves.
We're not known for getting on tangents at all.
Not at all.
Dumbing down of powers, and I'm gonna have to focus on X-Men here. Rogue. Okay, Rogue. Now, granted, in the comics, she got half of her powers that she's classically known for from Ms. Marvel. Okay, but in the comics, Rogue can fly. She's practically nigh invulnerable.
Yeah.
She's got super strength. And she's got the soaking powers as well. It's not just it's almost like they just use her as, well, one, they combined her with Jubilee, and then they've also got Jubilee in the movies, so I don't understand why bother doing that. If you're going to do that, just give us Jubilee. The dynamic between Wolverine and Jubilee was much better in the comics than Wolverine and Rogue was ever in the movies. But you give us one of her powers when all of the other powers. I mean, okay, Ms. Marvel isn't going to be in the movies. Fine, just say she had those powers from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
At least
the
powers are right.
To them, but she's one of the X-Men's heavy hitters. She's the go up to say, I need this taken care of, and Wolverine and Cyclops and Jean Grey can't do it. I mean, she's up there with Colossus.
You're talking about a girl who has gone hand to hand with Juggernaut before.
Yeah.
And done pretty well for herself. And by the way, X-Men, Juggernaut is not a mutant.
He's magically powered by the gem of Cyttorak.
Just a thing. Sorry.
Tangent.
But simplified explanations.
Do tell.
Okay? That's another thing that goes into this whole real world thing. Simplified explanations. This is going to turn into a long episode, guys, and I apologize for that.
We told you to sit back and tighten up the capes.
We've had some shorter ones this week.
We told you to tighten up your capes.
And I think we're just prolonging having to do tomorrow's episode as long as we can. But anyway, more on that in a moment. Simplified explanations, where I don't even really know of a good example I can use on that, but kind of what I've said, honestly, a couple of times there, where it's like, okay, so you can't say, man, I don't even know. I really can't think of a good example.
Well, a lot of them, simplified explanations are almost a cop-out.
Where it's just kind of like, oh, hey, and then this thing happens. Just accept it.
Yeah.
All right, cool, moving on.
It's kind of like a flip-flop of the origin stories. It's like sometimes you need an explanation in these comic book movies for people who haven't read 30 years of the lore. Doomsday
in Dawn of Justice.
He could have used a backstory.
If you know the backstory of Doomsday from the comic books, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting.
Not that he was cooked up in some...
Not that it was just Lex Luthor was like, oh, can I have the body of General Zod? And now this ship has the ability to not only bring people back to life, but also turn them into this giant monster thing because it's convenient for the plot to do so?
Lex Luthor is intelligent, but come on, he does not understand Kryptonian. He doesn't. Because in the DCEU...
But he does, because it's convenient for the plot.
Yeah, but the DCEU, he automatically... oh, it's great new aliens, and then Superman's only been around for a decade, and I automatically know how to read his language and know how to use their tech. And it's like sometimes with Iron Man
because
going,
he shows
I
up
can
at the
hack
ship.
aliens.
Because he shows up to the ship and just basically tells the ship to teach me everything.
Yeah.
And apparently, it does so in a matter of moments.
But
okay,
right at all.
Sure. And we're kind of, I don't know, rambling at this point.
So
but
we're going to go on to point number 2. Know your stories. Like I just said, these characters have 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50, 70 years worth of backstory that you can go, hey, let me read it, get a quick snippet of what's going on in their lives, and then I understand the character.
Here's a perfect point on that. Okay, you've done, and here we go back to X-Men again. You've done essentially Age of Apocalypse. You've done the Age of Ultron. You've done the Days of Future Past. You've done you're naming,
which they didn't get that right in any stretch of the imagination.
and that's what I'm saying. You're naming, you're basing these movies off of known story arcs from comic book history, and these story arcs being iconic stories. They were huge in the world of comic books, enormous stories at the time.
That took
so you took the name
months and months.
You took the basic premise of that story, and then you just butchered the crap out of the rest of it.
I'm going to look at Marvel on this one, and Civil War is it. The movie we got was good, but it was too clean cut. Clean cut.
To be fair, I mean, they don't have every.
They didn't have everybody they had, but they did have enough characters that they could have done. They could have, instead of leading up to Thanos, they could have still led up to Thanos, but they needed to bring in more. Iron Man 3 should have been something about that, and leading up to the Sokovia Accords, and it seemed rushed. Civil War seemed rushed.
Absolutely, and Days of Future Past is a perfect example here.
That was. And Wolverine.
Here we go back to X-Men.
Wolverine didn't.
Days of Future Past was Kitty Pryde's story.
That was all Kitty Pryde's story.
So instead, Kitty Pryde sends Wolverine back into the past because Wolverine is your cash cow.
Yeah.
Because Hugh Jackman is all ripped and built and stuff, and I'll get back to Hugh Jackman in a moment. So, but stop. So stop changing things just for the sake of changing them.
Mm-hmm.
I get it that Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat. Not everybody who's not an X-Men fan is going to know who the hell Shadowcat is, or Kitty Pryde for that matter. But you send Wolverine back. So if you can't tell the story the way it was supposed to be told,
why tell it?
Don't tell it.
Yeah.
Just tell something else. Allow the comic book writers and if you're going to make a comic book movie, the writer of that movie, the director of that movie, should either be comic book writers themselves, or at the very least, fans of the comic. You know, how many times have you seen an interview where they were like, well, I didn't know anything about the character, so I went and picked up a few comic books and read them, and then to get some insight on the character. And here's what I think the character is doing here. If you had actually known the character, you would know that you're completely wrong there, but I digress.
So what we're basically getting at is instead of Hollywood,
this isn't a passion project for us at all.
Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to throw X amount of money at you, writer, you just write me a good action comic book movie, and then the writer doesn't do any kind of homework. That's bad on the writer. That's bad on the director, and it's bad on the company.
There's an infamous story about when Kevin Smith was hired to do a Superman movie. And he actually wrote the Doomsday Story the way it happened in the comic books. And when he took it to Warner Brothers, they hated it. They hated everything about it. There was this big conversation that took place on top of Mount Rushmore between Superman and Lois Lane about their love and what it meant to be Superman. And it was the most important conversation that these two individuals have ever had in the history of that comic book, and they wanted him to remove it. This was the last time they would speak before Superman died.
Yes.
Take it out.
Take it out. We don't want it.
And while you're at it, have him fight a big spider in the sewers.
Why?
Because that would be cool.
Why? But you know what? You know what we got in its place? We got
West.
Martha.
Why
did you say that name?
Why did you say that name?
We got Martha. has no context whatsoever in the relationship between Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. But all of a sudden, Warner Brothers, you decided that it had to have some significance.
They want to kill each other until they realize that their moms had the same
and while
name.
I'm at it, did you know that Gotham and Metropolis are right next to each other?
Apparently, yeah, right across the bay.
Because that's not how it is in the DC universe.
Yeah, well, you know.
All right.
But let's talk about
the
point
big one.
number one, and that is casting. So, okay, you want your leading man or your leading lady to be attractive. You want them to be...
They're comic book characters. People draw them to be the pinnacle
of physical form and all of that. But, and I get it, you want to put some pretty big names in there to draw the non-comic book fans in to see your movie. Now, in some cases, they've gotten this pretty well
Pretty
on the
spot
nose.
on. Pretty spot on.
Chris Evans?
Chris Evans?
Chris Hemsworth.
I like those two as Cap and Thor.
Amazing.
They're really good.
Absolutely amazing. Henry Cavill as Superman.
Not really got a problem with it.
Looks the part. Good Lord, does he look the part.
And I hate to say it, but I'm sorry, Ben Affleck
was an amazing Batman.
You need to be staying on. And while
Please.
we're at it, here's another tangent. Why do people who get these iconic roles back out after a movie or two? Well, I don't want to be typecast. You know, this is the biggest property on the face of the earth right now, and you don't want to be typecast? I'd be like, sign me up till I'm 60.
Yeah. Until I'm not physically able to put that suit on and run around.
See Robert Downey Jr. He has literally played Iron Man, and Iron Man rebirthed his career.
Yeah. It's almost over.
It's almost over.
And that's unfortunate. But, you know, it has to happen.
But
that's where I get back to X-Men once again. Because who have they cast wrong in X-Men?
Everybody.
Pretty much everybody.
I like their choice for
Patrick
Cyclops.
Stewart.
Patrick Stewart was pretty good.
Okay, sure, yeah. Honestly, would not have been my choice. Would not have been my choice for Professor X, but that's just me. But I didn't have a problem with his casting, and I thought that he played it beautifully.
Well, he actually went on record in saying he didn't know who the character was when he got cast for it.
Personally, I think that Ben Kingsley would have made a much better Professor X.
But then he went back and he read just about everything he could read about the character. He said he'd absorbed 2 or 3 years worth of the original X-Men movies.
But
not movies, but comic books.
But let's talk about
the big one.
Let's talk about old Wolverine.
Wolverine's not 6'2".
Wolverine is 5'3" tall, is covered in hair, is extremely angsty and angry and hates everybody. There have been 2 people that he ever gave a flying crap about, and those 2 people were Jean Grey and Jubilee.
That's it. Nobody else.
Jean Grey, he was in love with. Jubilee, he took on as almost a father-daughter kind of thing.
Maybe his original Japanese wife.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's
I mean,
the point.
in the
But in the core,
in the main storyline.
But we got Rogue, remember?
Instead, we get Hugh Jackman, which attitude-wise, for a good chunk of the first movie, sure. Close at times. Whenever he flips him off with the claws, I liked that part. But the moment that a tear ran from Wolverine's eyes, someone should have been fired.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree.
Hugh Jackman is the worst possible casting choice for Wolverine. Period.
These I'm gonna sneeze.
And I know you're all gonna be mad at me for saying that, but read the comics. I'm right. I'm not saying he played the character. He played it very well for what the character was.
He played it as well as it could be written.
The character that he played, however, was not Wolverine. That's all I'm saying. Of course, I can say that about a lot of people. Heath Ledger's Joker, was awesome. It was an awesome performance. Just wasn't the Joker. Sadly, probably the closest to having a comic book accurate Joker on screen in a movie that we've had, I'm sorry guys, but it was Leto.
Yeah, pretty.
I'm not saying that it was right. It was a million miles from being right, but it was the closest to the comic book that we've had on screen thus far. Yeah. Now, if we were talking on screen in general, I'd say Jerome. But as far as the movies go, Jack Nicholson did great. That character was not the Joker. Heath Ledger was phenomenal. That character was not the Joker. Leto was a weird performance, and it wasn't the Joker, but it was closer to being the Joker than any other one has been thus far. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so we've got some bad ones, but who's got it right? We
There
said
is
Chris
one.
Evans.
There's one.
Chris Evans, he was the original Human Torch back in the
I like the
early
Fantastic Four
90s,
movies,
late
or the first
2000s,
one, anyway.
the first one.
I didn't think it was all that horrible.
No, actually, for what it was and for what they had to
At
work
the
with
time.
at the time, it was pretty
all right.
pretty good.
It was entertaining.
It was definitely better than the last one we had.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Human Torch was.
There is.
We didn't even touch on this. It goes back to characters, and I'm going to talk about it. Don't be PC when you cast these characters. If the character is white, you cast a white. If it's black, you cast a black.
Now, that obviously comes across as somewhat of a racist statement, but it is not meant to be. I have two things to say about that. One is just simply goes back to what we were saying about staying true to the story that you're pulling from. There are plenty of racially and even sexually oriented,
Characters
what's the
out
word
there.
I'm looking for there? But yeah, characters to choose from.
Yeah.
But Daredevil, the movie Daredevil with Ben Affleck, there's a story that goes back to that. When that movie was first going into production, Cuba Gooding Jr., an actor that I absolutely love, came forward and it was like, I am a huge Daredevil fan, and I really, really, really want to play Daredevil. They turned him down on the fact that he was a black man and that Daredevil is a white guy. Well, guess what? Kingpin is a white guy, but you allowed a black man to play him. You can't have it both ways here, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have a problem with. I mean, if you want to change, make those changes, fine. I would prefer you stay true to the story. That's just me. But if you want to make those changes, you either have to make the changes or not make the changes. You can't tell one guy you can't because you're the wrong race. But it's okay if he does it.
But if so, I agree with that. So who got it right?
There's only one movie that's gotten it right pretty much across the board.
And it was so right that even the comic book said it was right. Yep. Ryan Reynolds and Fox, now property of Disney.
Disney, you better keep him.
You.
Oh my God,
you
better
need to keep him exactly how he is. You need to allow Ryan Reynolds to have some of these inputs that he had in the first movie.
Seeing as how even in the and then that is a movie that was made because of the fans.
Yes.
They made some test footage that accidentally got leaked out onto the internet, and
it blew up. It was all over YouTube for all
Fox
of a couple months.
It was not even that. It was literally like 2 days, and in a course of a couple of days, they saw, wow, there really is a pull for this movie.
And so they
Fox
greenlit
wanted
it and
nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. They wanted to make an X-Force movie that would feature Deadpool, possibly, but they wanted nothing to do with an R rating. They wanted it to be PG-13 at worst, but then that clip gets out, and lo and behold, it is now one of the most successful comic book movies to date.
All right, we're approaching half an hour to this video.
Yeah.
And we apologize.
We've had some
But
shorter ones
We've
this
had some
week,
shorter
so
ones
that's
this
all right.
week. Deadpool got it right. Our ratings do work for comic book movies. Logan, it wasn't a good movie, but it actually was probably the closest to portraying a Wolverine that we've ever had.
Okay.
He didn't care. He was old. He
I'll
was
give you
crass. And it was bloody as sin.
Yeah.
There is Wolverine's tagline is, "I'm the best at what I do, and what I do ain't pretty." Mm-hmm. He doesn't play around. He will cut you as soon talk to you.
Yeah, and why did we never get to see a Berserker, Rach?
Yeah,
We never got to see one.
we came close in Logan. Came close,
Came close.
but didn't have it. So, guys, that's going to wrap it
Yeah.
up for the Thursday. We thank you for watching this long.
Yeah.
Please go ahead and follow us.
Thank you for listening to us rant. Just basically complain about stuff for half an hour. But
Yeah, but we
Hey.
gave some good information, so I hope you
Yeah.
take to it.
So disagree with us, agree with us.
Put in
got
the
other
comments.
points that we missed. Put them all down there. We welcome your criticisms and all that fun
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Check us out on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and don't forget, guys, we've got shirts available. They are $20. We are working on getting long sleeve ones as well.
Hit us up
Pricing
on
on
our-
that to come.
our Facebook for if you want one.
Yep. right there, the Facebook address. Send us a message on there, what colors you would like. You can get them in pretty much whatever color you like. They are the most comfortable shirts in the world.
And right now they do only go up to 2X.
Yes,
only to 2X, but we're working on something.
On something bigger there. Yeah, let us know what colors you would like on that. We will get that ball rolling for you. And
stay tuned for tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm afraid. I am legitimately afraid.
So guys, you know what time it is.
Crikey, my name's Steve Owen, and I'm from Springfield, Missouri, and this is your wrestling clip of the day.
Hey guys, thanks for watching that video. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and if you liked what you see, go ahead and click on our faces to go ahead and subscribe to get all of our Monday through Friday stuff.
Indeed, and here's a couple of links down below that you can follow to watch more shows like it. Tons of great content right here at Scallywag Productions. We'll see you tomorrow.